Sorry, but just to be clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
Marc Lamont Hill was a guest on Piers Morgan's show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, to go up against a panel that included commentator Lily Gaddis, New York Post columnist Ricky Scott, and podcaster Myron Gaines. The topic of this panel was a recent incident in which a white woman called an autistic child the N-word and all the fallout from that. So we're going to take a look at this panel on Piers Morgan Uncensored. I'm going to share my thoughts too. This one's a wild one. Let's get into this together.
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on our side.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the M-word, first at a young child, and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. So I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. Isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
white people finally
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in the country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
Mm-hmm. I do, quite frequently.
You use the M-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist, I'm a neo-Nazi.
If you use the M-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so. I don't really care. Why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
Because I'm white and my
Well, there are no black people in American history. Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading your white country? Is that your position?
Mm-hmm. Well, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist, and at some point we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
I don't disagree, Mark. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying it's technically black people brought up. No, technically Africans were stolen, enslaved, and they built this country. And the idea that you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
With people like this woman, Lily Gaddis, the blonde lady. I mean, I guess there's two blonde ladies here, but this is when we see the negative side of everyone having a voice. And this is someone that I had not heard of her before this video, but we get some really stupid and disgusting people that suddenly have a voice and are able to speak to millions and millions of people. And I think they've been emboldened by a particular person who is the most powerful man in the world now. But I want you guys to hear a bit more, and I'll have some specific comments that I want to make about this. So let's continue.
You may as well have done, because you're just an unashamed.
That's the implication of your
racist. Let me bring in Myron Gaines, because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admits she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody.
She's self-identified as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist. I use the N-word against black people. I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think this Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organized. And what I mean by this is, for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result, when in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people. And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality, or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right, but just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she uses the N-word at black people with impunity and is proud of being a racist. You have no problem with that?
My worldview on the protection of the First Amendment and freedom of speech overrides my personal feelings. She has the right to say
That's fine. You can support the First Amendment, but you can also have a personal view about what she said.
My feelings are irrelevant. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's what matters.
Oh, that's fascinating. Hold on. So when it comes to chastising black Americans about their behavior, about calling white people crackers, as you say, about their moral claims about the racist system, you can levy a judgment against black Americans for all the things they do. But when it comes to this woman saying the N-word, and this other woman endorsing it and saying that she herself uses the N-word, now all of a sudden we can only talk about the Constitution and the legal right. We can't offer any moral judgment against it. That's disingenuous. And it's as the only black American up here, that's quite frustrating to hear.
Here's the thing. If you want to be soft and get offended by that, that's your fucking problem, not mine.
Let me ask Ricky. Let me ask Ricky. Ricky,
this isn't about being soft any more than when you were desperately saving these white people.
Hold on. This sensitive nature that you have is precisely why we have this problem.
It's not about being sensitive. It's about I didn't articulate. Hold on. Let me finish, Myron. Let me speak and then I'll let you respond. Myron, sure. I didn't articulate any sensitivity here. What I said, in the same way that you levied a judgment against black people, I'm levying one against the claims you're making. I'm no more sensitive than you were when you made your claim. I'm simply saying I disagree with you. And to immediately jump to you're being sensitive is just a distraction. I'm making an argument here. Just respond to my argument.
No, my argument to respond to that is this. Political correctness, liberalism, and making sure that we are politically correct and don't use certain words to offend people is precisely why we're in the situation that we're in. For decades, we've had to literally tiptoe around saying certain things around certain people, while the other group of people has been able to have impunity and be able to be as racist as they want to be, as violent as they want to be, without any type of consequence.
Okay, so Myron, these guys like Myron Gaines here drive me nuts. And I believe that Donald Trump has really emboldened a lot of this way of thinking that these assholes like Myron Gaines have. The Constitution provides freedom of speech that the government cannot tell you what you can and cannot say. The Constitution does not protect you from other people being offended or upset. You know, Myron Gaines says, oh, you're soft if you're offended or whatever. The Constitution doesn't protect you from other people being upset about what you have to say and the consequences that you might face from other people if you say things that are offensive or upset people. But Myron Gaines and these other MAGA people like him think that the First Amendment gives you the right to behave like an asshole and do whatever you want all the time. And it does not give you that right. If somebody goes into a library and they're sitting there quietly studying, and the person in the next table across from them is shouting or singing loudly or yelling racial slurs, they are going to be told to leave. Now, I suppose they could take that to the Supreme Court and say, it was my constitutional right to sit there and yell racial slurs at the top of my lungs in the library. But, you know, it's probably never going to get to the point. But that person is just being an asshole. You know, part of being in a society is getting along with other people and not just constantly looking for confrontation. You know, Myron Gaines, I guess his ancestry is Sudanese. Now, I'm sure if he were presented with this question, then Myron Gaines would say, you know, I wouldn't be offended. But if everywhere he went, he walked into a store, he went into a restaurant, people used anti-Sudan or Sudanese slurs against him, I don't know what those would be, he probably would get tired of that. I doubt he would say, well, it's your constitutional right. He would probably want to fight that person. I'm just guessing. I can't imagine that he would just sit there and take it at all times. But you know what I'm saying? Getting along with other people and not just doing whatever you want to do just because you feel like it at all times is part of being in a society. At this point, I really feel like with MAGA and some of these conservatives and libertarians and whatever else, that we should just build a walled city and, you know, escape from New York style walled city in the middle of Wyoming somewhere and let them all go there and live where there would just be no laws and no rules and they could just be as much of an asshole as they want to be. And they wouldn't have to get vaccinated, so they could subject each other to whatever viruses and diseases that they would be spreading, and there would be no gun laws, so they could just shoot each other as much as they wanted to, and they could drive on the wrong side of the road, and, you know, whatever else. But I just want to say to these guys like Myron Gaines, just shut the hell up. Yes, you have the constitutional right to use racial slurs, but we seemingly had a period for a while, pre-Trump, that some of these people would just keep their mouths shut because they didn't want to face the consequences of just saying whatever they wanted to, and then people got mad. That doesn't mean people are soft. That doesn't mean, you know, they're sensitive. That's just not wanting to be subjected to douchebags at all times. To have, you know, go about your life and not have to listen to nonsense at all times from a guy like Myron Gaines.
And if you call it out, you're labeled a racist. The reality is this. Black people don't want to live around black people. I don't want to live around a bunch of black people. I move to neighborhoods where it's majority white because I know I'm safe. Now, this is uncomfortable reality that no one wants to say, so I'll say it for them. Black people commit a lot of crimes. A majority of the violent crime committed in the United States is committed by a small percentage of people, and they tend to be black men. Look, the reality is the reality. People don't want to say it. But the political correctness and being nice and not wanting to tell the truth is precisely this problem. And the reason why you're seeing all the support for Metcalf and Shiloh, etc., is because white people have not been able to step up and say what they want to say for a very long time because of what I said before, systemic, organized where they don't take accountability for their
All right, let me
decisions.
bring in Ricky to respond. Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that I agree that virtue signaling went too far, that political correctness went too far, but we're going from virtue signaling being the norm and being praised to now vice signaling being the norm and being praised. It's not just a matter of does this woman have the right to use that word? I believe that she has the right. I disagree with it. But is she now being rewarded with $500,000? Why are we rewarding people for performing vice instead of virtue? This is not healthy. This is destructive to our society. This is destructive to our social fabric, to our culture, to our ability to live with other fellow Americans. It's gross to reward someone for bad behavior. It's one thing to tolerate it, to say that she has the right to do it, but she called an autistic 5-year-old the N-word. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like we're kind of like missing the point in the actual context. You can say that it's part of this bigger meta story of black and white America, but it actually is just like a short little clip, and you don't even know the context of it, and it's actually gross, and if we can't just say that it's gross and bad, then I don't really know where we are.
Well, I think it's interesting to me that Lily Gaddis, you retweeted Nick Fuentes, the white supremacist, by saying he said black people just raised $500,000 for a cold-blooded killer who stabbed a white teenager to death. So I don't want to hear one word about the Shiloh Hendricks fundraiser. Either everyone gets to be tribal or nobody does. Why would you retweet that?
Because I agree with it. Because we have to fight fire with fire. I mean, at some point, why are
nobody does?
Why are Jewish people allowed to be tribal? Why are black people allowed to be tribal? But as soon as white people stand up for themselves, we're labeled a racist. And by the way, you call people racist when you want them to stop talking about things.
No, I called you a racist because you admitted you were racist. Hang on. I called, just to be clear, I called you a racist because you openly, proudly admitted you're a racist. So it wasn't a question of exposing you or pointing my finger or trying to get this out of you. You proudly sat there, bold as brass, and said, yeah, I use the N-word all the time against black people. I'm a racist and I'm proud of it. That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country.
Okay, I'm going to stop here because I can't take any more. But this is a rare instance in which I completely agree with Piers Morgan on his show. This woman, Lily Gaddis, unless this is just a complete act, seems to be a disgusting person. This Myron Gaines, I've seen him, I've seen his podcast some. He's a douche. And like Ricky Scott said there, they seem to be missing the point. Yeah, you have the right to say these things, in terms of the government's not going to stop somebody from saying these things. But maybe don't act like a douchebag. Maybe try to be a decent person instead of just saying, oh, I can say whatever I want. Because, again, I think they all feel emboldened by Donald Trump. And these people used to be slithering around under rocks, but now they've all come out into the light and they just feel like they can do whatever they want. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with Marc Lamont Hill and Piers Morgan about this? Again, good on Piers Morgan to really not hold back and just say, hey, you're a racist. You say you're a racist. Or do you agree with this disgusting person, Lily Gaddis and Myron Gaines? Let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.